Hello everyone, I am Jesse, or GameOverJesse, for the Hylian Gamescast, episode 68. Here with us is Chiblima, Capt Bergerson, and Melon Speedruns.
Hey.
Today we're going to be talking about the cancelled Twilight Princess sequel, which didn't actually make it too far into development, but I was doing some research and I started reading back a lot of the older Iwata Asks interviews where he goes through every time a new major game releases. Iwata gives an interview with a bunch of the directors. I began reading the Twilight Princess and the Skyward Sword one a few weeks ago, and then lately I read through the Link's Crossbow training, which is where this comes from. And basically, I'm sure everyone is aware of Twilight Princess and Link's Crossbow training. Link's Crossbow training basically taking the minigame segment from Twilight Princess and creating a full game out of it. But apparently, during the Iwata Asks, I believe, Miyamoto mentions that it originally began as a full-fledged Majora's Mask style sequel to Twilight Princess that would have just reused a lot of the same assets and stuff to quickly make a sequel. But then they had already released Twilight Princess on the Wii and the GameCube at the same time, or one was a week after the other. And they looked at how long it took to develop Twilight Princess, and they didn't think that was really a possibility to have another game in development for nearly as long, which is odd because I would imagine if they reused a lot of the same assets and stuff, then they would be able to make it a lot faster. But Miyamoto and the team decided to just begin working on an entirely new Zelda game, and they took the concepts that they had for the sequel, turned it into Skyward Sword, but what they had already worked on using the assets from Twilight Princess, instead of just creating an entirely new game from it, they just made the weird little mini-game shootout, Link's Crossbow training, and it just... I want to say that it sucks because we didn't get the Twilight Princess sequel that I'm sure a lot of people wanted. It made sense at the time because Twilight Princess was the most successful until Breath of the Wild, I think. It was the most successful Zelda game. But because it was cancelled, we ended up getting Skyward Sword, which a lot of people has issues with, but I think it's really great. But specifically with the Twilight Princess sequel, I think it would have been something that a lot of people would have liked, especially with my head canon, or what I imagine a Twilight Princess sequel would be. It would be, since Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess were kind of the same structure wise, like you are raised in the forest area, then you beat the forest dungeon, you go to the fire dungeon, you go to the water dungeon. It kind of repeats a similar formula with Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. So I thought, or I always imagined, a sequel to Twilight Princess would do something similar to where Link leaves Hyrule to go searching for his friend Navi, or Navi. I don't know how you'd pronounce, yeah. So where the hero of time sets out after defeating Ganon to search for his friend, I imagine the Twilight Princess sequel would likely do the same, to where the Twilight Princess Link, after losing Midna and defeating Ganondorf, he sets out to find a way to meet up with Midna once again. So that's what I imagine the sequel will do, but since we don't really have any information on what this sequel could have been, I just want to know what your guys' thoughts is on the potential for a Twilight Princess sequel, it being cancelled in favor of Link's Crossbow training and Skyward Sword, and what kind of sequel you would personally like to see. So, starting with you, Daniel.
Well, first, it's kind of funny, the last few podcasts, the topic, and almost like a rehash of... Nintendo has this sort of cycle of canceling sequels for their Zelda games now, because we had we talked before about how they were gonna make an like a Wind Waker sequel, and that got canceled, and they were gonna make an Ocarina of Time sequel, and that got canceled, and both of those ended up becoming Twilight Princess in the end, and then now we know they were gonna make a Twilight Princess sequel, and that got canceled as well. So it's just kind of funny seeing, I guess, Nintendo, they're like, oh, what can we pick up from here? And then they're like, what if people haven't played this one? Maybe we should just make a new one. like yeah. I don't know. It's kind of funny, and I know that diehards are all like, oh, I really want that direct sequel, but ultimately there is that level of accessibility. If you've never played certain Zelda games, you can kind of jump in anywhere. I don't know. It's always hard to imagine, because like we probably wouldn't have gotten Skyward Sword if they had followed through with that. And that game is very, it's a lot of fun playing it. And from like a lore perspective, it's a lot of information that way too. And I really like how it's very lore heavy and really very a very deep story compared to games prior to it. Not to say that the games before didn't have stories or anything. But I appreciate Skyward Sword for what it is, and I have a kind of imagining the timeline as it is now without it. Also, I confessed on a previous podcast I really like Link's Crossbow Training. That's my guilty pleasure Zelda game. So it's my guilty pleasure. It's like Kayla and Sour Keys. So
yeah, they're like way over there. I can't reach them anymore. You see me like crawling over. I'm going for Sour Keys.
The interesting thing about Link's Crossbow Training is that it was based off of that one segment in Twilight Princess, but in the Iwata Asks Twilight Princess interview, there is a segment where they talk about the developer who came up with the idea for that segment, the old Western style shootout. Originally, it was an optional. Well, okay, first off, in the game, it's mandatory that you have to do that because you need the Ancient Sky book from Impaz. But with Sparkling Sign, I just donated. We'll get to that in just a second while I got this fresh on my mind because I don't want to forget this. But so as it is now, it's a mandatory segment. Originally, it was going to be an optional minigame. Like most Zelda games have tons and tons of optional minigames or optional side quests. It was just going to be like that. But they enjoyed it so much that they made it mandatory that you have to play it because they all liked it so much. So they ended up changing a huge portion of the game around so it would fit in the story and make sense for you to do that. So they made it part of the Ancient Sky quest to get to the city in the sky and be able to read the old language and everything, to where originally it was just going to be completely optional. You could have played through the entire game without even seeing it, which is odd because it's such a crucial part of the quest now, because you run into one of the only confirmed Sheikah members. You learned that the lost city or the secret village, hidden village, whatever it's called, is the old Kakariko. But it's not located anywhere near the old Kakariko was from Ocarina of Time. So originally, the Kakariko village that we know now was the original Kakariko village, but because they wanted to make it mandatory that you have to go to this place, they ended up making the hidden village the old Kakariko. So they completely changed the geography, the story, the back lore, and everything of the game, just so people would have to play this minigame. That was originally just optional, and before that it wasn't even a part of the game, because the original person that created the idea was almost embarrassed by it because it had nothing to do with the Zelda. It was just a fun thing that he made, and he wasn't sure if people, what they would think about the idea. So it was a similar situation to Aonuma, where he said that he woke up delirious, confused, not knowing where he was at, and then he went into work. Yeah, and then he went to work the next day and was like, hey, what if we made Link wake up as a wolf in Twilight Princess at the beginning? And then Miyamoto's like, that would be boring. Who wants to stare at a wolf's butt the entire game? So then they
Accurate.
So then they came up with the idea of Midna. So there's these things that are just crazy ideas that people have that end up completely changing the game, because if he wouldn't have woken up confused or disoriented, he wouldn't have came up with the idea to have Wolf Link. If they wouldn't have had Wolf Link, there would have been no Midna, because Midna was only created so that you would have someone to look at while running around as Wolf Link, and you wouldn't just be staring at the wolf's butt the entire time. So it's very interesting. But anyways, back to you, Daniel. I just wanted to bring that in.
Oh, for sure.
Sorry.
Let's talk about
Sparkling Cyanide says, I enjoy your Sunday evening podcasts every week like clockwork. I feel as if you're all good friends when I watch. Thanks for some of your time. Thank you, Sparkling. That means a lot.
Gibbs also let them know we are good friends.
Yeah. Except Ilya, that's why we kicked her out this week.
Yeah.
We replaced her
with the odd one out.
We replaced her with the Melons.
Yep.
No, but good for good for Aonuma waking up delirious. I still find that story
Thinking about
interesting.
wolf bots.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why?
But Daniel, continue. I'm gonna go do something really quick, but I'll be back before you guys finish. I'll just be like 30 seconds. So after Daniel, just keep going, talking about it, and then I'll be back.
Oh, okay. No pressure, Daniel.
He's probably going to shower. He's gonna have a quick 5
He's
minute
gonna
shower.
just have a quick shower. Right. So, which part did we not cover already, though?
We were just talking about our thoughts about the Twilight Princess, and I think you had gotten as
Yeah,
far
I
as
think-
being like, I really liked Link's crossbow training. That was,
Yeah, before
that
you
was my
booed
jam,
at
and then we all started booing you.
Yeah, no, I mean that was pretty much all I had to really contribute. I mean, it is funny how these little things kind of shape the games. Also, that's one of the highlights of Twilight Princess. There's so many really great points in that game, and that's a really high point for me. I love that section, just basically going through and eradicating all of the Bulbins. So
I never played the
sounds
game.
morbid. What?
I never played the game, and if I play it, it's most likely going to be to look at the game's files and just see if I can find anything not used.
Oof. Well, fair enough.
Classic.
Yeah.
But no, it's a really fun part. You know, it is totally a scene out of a Clint Eastwood movie, and you just go in and have this big shootout with a village full of Bulbins, and it's just a grand old time. But maybe that's why I liked Link's crossbow training, because
Maybe.
I enjoyed that part
You're
of Twilight Princess so
Living a
much.
life that you never got to live before.
Yeah, I'm living my best life with with Wii shovelware, apparently.
See, I'm the other way around. I would have loved for another Twilight Princess, because I don't even think I would necessarily love another Twilight Princess so much as I would love just like another like dark Zelda timeline, because I am all about that dark stuff. Like when we were going over all of, like the dark like prototypes and stuff that they had, I was all over that. So it doesn't even have to be like a continuation or a sequel, because I personally really liked the way that Twilight Princess ended, and I don't think that I would want them to continue it. That's just-
Like, how could they continue it? The only thing I'm thinking is that maybe they'll do something like a Majora's Mask where Link wants to see Midna again, right?
Mhm.
But how do you open the Shadow Realm one more time? What I'm thinking is that maybe they could have had Link turn into Dark Link and do bad stuff to open the Shadow Realm somehow.
Oh, that's interesting. Sort of corrupted hero.
Yeah, like maybe
Yeah.
something even darker than Twilight Princess
Yeah.
for the sequel.
I guess I imagine if they had to do something like that, I think it would follow in the same vein as Majora's Mask, where, you know, in that game, Link doesn't end up finding Navi. Even
Yeah.
he goes off looking for it and just gets roped into something completely different somewhere else, outside of Hyrule. So I guess if they were going to do something along those lines, I would hope they would do it somewhere not in Hyrule, with
Yeah.
no Master Sword, no Zelda, no Ganon, no Ganondorf, no Triforce even. Actually, they could still keep it, just like as an Easter egg, just keep it on, like, because he has it on the symbol on his hand the whole time. But
Yeah.
I mean, the game wraps up really nicely in the end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like I don't know. Did you know that at the ending of OT, if you look at Link's hand when he enters the courtyard, you can see the Triforce on his hand,
Mhm.
and that's something you don't normally see on the N64 with the horrible quality.
True. No, but it is still there, and I think that Nintendo's even kind of run with that idea when they talk about the timeline, because I know in the books at least they mentioned that part of why Link was credible was because he had the Triforce when he went back in time to sort of accuse Ganondorf of planning a coup. Yeah. The TGL Mudora, who's also known as Lorulian Historian, oh my god, I cannot speak. He mentions in the chat, we have Shadow Link from the Mirror and Four Swords Adventure, which in the official timeline at least is right after Twilight Princess. So I guess it's not too far-fetched an idea, because we're sort of in the next game officially in the timeline. We do have sort of a Shadow Link character appear and kind of wreck things up, so it makes some sense. I like this. Micah's plays games, and in the end of Ocarina of Time, she just flies off in the distance. Temples like WTF.
What are you doing? I need you.
Where are you going?
I need you to see target.
He just can't focus without
Yeah.
knowing. He can't focus on one object without her there. Yeah, I think that's about all I had to say about the matter. I don't know if you guys had anything else to add.
No?
Twilight Princess really. No?
No.
We need Jesse back.
Yeah.
I don't even
Clap for Jesse.
This is we're falling apart without him. Oh no.
No, we just wait.
We just wait. Goodbye, everybody.
He gone.
No.
No, I'm kidding.
You don't have the power to end the podcast.
I can't.
You basically like, goodbye, everyone leaves.
Bye.
Aggressively
Bye.
exits
The
Discord
stream
chat.
stays online. Oh.
I have an unrelated question. What are the shrines or the shrine names based off of in Breath of the Wild?
They're all Nintendo staff members' names, only anagrams. Like
Are they
switch the letters
actually?
around.
Because I was looking into it today, and people say that's like a theory that they had, but not like the only one that they could think of was Anuma.
Oh, is it? I don't know. I remember, at least I remember seeing something like that where they had a list of a few of them, but I was like, I don't have the time to read all of this, so I didn't do it. But
yeah, because I was playing today with Cameron, and he was like, "Why are all these names so weird?" And I was like,
maybe they just thought it sounded cool.
It's the only thing I don't have an answer for, apparently.
Yeah, no, I mean, in theory, like if you really break it down, what are any names based around?
True.
True.
So he was getting really sassy with me today because he was like, do people even understand Link? Does he just like hut and hi at them? And I'm like, no, Link can talk. And he was like, give me one example of Link talking. And I was like,
come on.
Yeah.
That's my example.
That's my relationship.
Oh, hello!
I want a Zelda game where Link just has Mario clips.
Yep.
Oh my
Let me
god.
butt that in real quick.
And a mustache, and that's it. It's the same as any other Zelda game. He has a mustache and voice clips.
God damn it. I mean, Link with like a beard, like, how weird would that be? Like a light beard.
That would be weird. Is Jesse wearing pajamas?
Yep.
He
And
left to put pajamas on.
he's like, let me slip into something more comfortable.
Oh my god.
Can you not? Oh my god.
Can you don't, please?
What's funny is until like 10 minutes before the podcast started, I was wearing pajamas, but
You put on pants to come do the podcast?
I put on pants just for this.
That's so
I
funny.
don't even know what I'm wearing right now.
No one knows what Melon's. For all we know, Melon is doing this podcast in the nude.
I had
Jesse,
pajamas.
welcome back.
Nice pajamas.
I had a phone call and I got a bottle of water. So
And you put pajamas on.
I already had
Yep.
pajamas on.
Well, I guess
Oh.
we never noticed then.
No, I was naked before and now I have pants.
I mean, it's not like we were looking.
Yeah. Alright,
Papa.
so
We can move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
Good, because we've just been the podcast equivalent of shit posting this whole time.
Great. So next topic.
What was that? What are you just tossing things around?
Yeah, this is I'm drinking Canada Dry right now.
Those are papers. Toss everything.
Daniel!
Alright.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.